You make a living. Crypto is on the rise, making that dough in the crypto paradise. Watching it go, buying low, selling high. Riding the wave, I'm here to stay, living in the digital age. No banks, no fees, just decentralized. It's crypto paradise. Ooh. No banks, no fees.
Alrighty, let's kick this thing off. Surfers, good morning from paradise. It is Tuesday, December 9th. My name is Crypto Amaru, joined as always by Nick, the crypto hitman himself. We got a great show for you guys today. Predictions for 2026. Who knows, maybe we'll look back on 2025. I know we still have a few more weeks here in 25, so we'll talk about what's going to happen here at the end of the year as well. But some good stories for you guys. We're not the only ones talking supercycle. We're not the only ones talking 5-year cycle. I know certainly there's a lot of voices saying the top is in, 126K, that was it for Bitcoin. 4-year cycle still a thing. But you know who's on our side now? CZ himself. So we got some good little clips to share with you guys around that too. By the way, Nick, how was hanging up the Christmas lights yesterday? Was that drink any eggnog along with that or what?
No, we did not. It was a little chilly out there, but we got most of it done. Now I need to get the tree up and stuff today. So we've been a little slacking today. Weather's been it's been a little rough here, and then also just been busy this year, so everything's moved back. But hey, we'll get it up. We'll enjoy it for a couple weeks, and we'll have to take it all down.
I mean, I think you have like a window till mid-January.
Yeah, usually I'm pretty late because I'm pretty late to pull it down because I'm like, I put it up. I use all white lights. It looks nice, you know. We keep it up for a little while.
That's what I'm saying. Like, because the worst part about winter, in my opinion, is after the holidays are over. You know, you got between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Yeah, it's cold. Yeah, it's dark at like 4 o'clock or whatever. You know, depending on where you're at. So the weather's bad, but at least you got the holidays. Then when the holidays are over, it's just cold and dark and no holidays. And it's like, this is miserable. So keep the tree up for as long as you can. That's my recommendation to you. Or better yet, you take a trip down to Tulum at the Paradise Pad and get out of the cold.
Right, any of you guys can also take a trip down to Tulum. You just need 200,000 surf or more, and right now that's pretty cheap. I don't know what that cost is. Maybe $1,000, $2,000 to get surf in your bag in your portfolio and get that free trip. So let's start with Bitcoin here. We do have stock market is slightly red today, while Bitcoin's still holding $90,000, fighting for 91,000. Again, just as we predicted, you want to keep seeing higher lows, and that's what we're seeing so far. We want to see this grind consolidate above this level here and then make its way higher towards 93 to 95,000. Remember, 95,000 is very important for MicroStrategy and very important for momentum in Bitcoin, because a MicroStrategy can flip green for the year at $95,000 Bitcoin. They will raise more funds and they will buy more Bitcoin. At the same time, interest rates are going to be cut, QE starting, and that's how we get the flywheel effect to get to new all-time highs for Bitcoin and leave the 4-year halving cyclists in their dust. Let's see how Ethereum is doing. Oh, what do you know? Continues to outperform Bitcoin at $3,136, already basing above its 200 moving average and trying to run up to its 300 moving average. We have been telling you this 3350 level is the target since all the way down here during this capitulation around 27 to 2800. We continue to slowly grind higher. I am fine with the slow grind because it puts in better levels. It makes it more constructive. People can get their positions, and this is what keeps people in cash. So like, oh, we're going to see another dip, and then tomorrow $100 higher. We'll see a dip, $200 higher the next day, $300 the next day, and then when you finally get that $1,000 green candle, that's when they'll FOMO in, and that's where you get parabolic runs in cryptocurrency.
I really don't hate the look of these charts. Not obviously the downtrend I don't like, but you start to see this slow grind up. That looks pretty good to me. And I'm no expert on the charts, but if you have any sort of conviction in this asset class, belief in Ethereum, Bitcoin, even, you know, we'll set aside alts for now. It's a different story. But those charts look pretty good. So if you got capital to deploy, you think the rate cut's coming, you think the 5-year cycle based on, you know, around the business cycle and liquidity and, Fed policy, et cetera. You think that's the narrative and not the 4-year cycle? I mean, that chart looks pretty good to dabble in. And I know there's been some Ethereum whales taking out massive longs here around these levels. So do they know something we don't know, or are they just got bigger balls than we do? Who knows? But chart looks pretty good to me.
Yeah, and talking about Ethereum whales, they're not active traders, but they are buyers. SharpLink Gaming just announced again, not another buy, but SharpLink Gaming generated 446 ETH, worth about $1.3 million in just the past week alone. And guess what they're doing? They're compounding that and staking that as well. Now, what does this do? That would be part of the inflationary rate for Ethereum under normal circumstances, because they might be weak hands, they might sell it for profits, whatever it may be. But they are taking that 446 ETH that they earned for their staking and literally adding it to their other bag of Ethereum. Again, this is why I think SharpLink Gaming, Bitminer are very undervalued and very beneficial to the ecosystem. Number one, they decrease the inflation rate because they are hoarding all the ETH they earn. Number two, they're buying more ETH off the open market, which means supply shock is in play. And then number four, I mean, as an investment, they made $1.33 million in profits with very low overhead in a week simply for staking their current Ethereum holdings. That will continue to grow because they continue to compound and buy more Ethereum for their staking position.
I don't get these talking heads on crypto Twitter or wherever who are against the institutions and the SBETs and the Bitmines, et cetera, and the MicroStrategies of the world, who are against them having entered the space and think it's bad. I just don't get that position at all. I mean, this is great. I would much rather have long-term convicted believers who are not just swing traders in and out, who are buying billions and billions of the asset and then staking it and then adding and then taking that ETH, not selling it, but adding to their principal to get more ETH. In what world is this bad? Like, I don't get it. So, I mean, I just feel like we have so many bullish, let's call them catalysts or just environment right now in terms of adoption and just, macro stories around crypto, this just being one of them. And yet you hear crypto Twitter, the world's coming to an end, the industry's over, the institutions have ruined everything. I just can't get behind that position. Happy to see this. Happy to see them staking. I think we should do a crypto paradise ETH strategic reserve. What do you think about that there, Nick?
Okay, that'd be nice. And that could benefit maybe this. This is what really talking about that. That's what Richard Hart should have been doing. I know he didn't want systematic risk, so he didn't stake all that Ethereum, but he had hundreds of millions of dollars with ETH for the Pulse Chain Sacrifice wallet that was sitting there for like 2 years. If he simply would have staked that, imagine the power of this. Now, the bag wasn't quite as big as SharpLink Gaming, so these numbers are going to be a little off. Maybe you should round down. But imagine if he was earning $1.33 million worth of ETH off that bag every week for staking, and he just full ported that into Pulse Chain. What would happen? Oh, wait, we just saw something very similar to that happen over the weekend. About $1.5 million was taken from ETH through Tornado Cash into Pulse Chain, and the assets literally rose between 50 to 85%. Now imagine that influx happening every single week from earnings from staked ETH without even touching the underlying $700 million principal. That's what he should have been doing. That's what he could do. People would say, well, he doesn't want the systematic risk. I get it. Things could have gone bad. But you have SharpLink Gaming out here. That's a pretty big target. Nothing's happened. They've done it right. Bitminer, even bigger target. Nothing's happened. They're doing it right. Everybody else on the ETH network, big targets, Vitalik stakes. Nothing's happened. They're doing it right. I think Richard Hart is plenty smart enough. He should have been staking that ETH, and there would have been a ton of earnings that could be literally ported in a Pulse Chain each and every week without touching the base. And that would spur tons of speculation. And again, at these price points, massive green candles.
There are ways to stake ETH with very little counterparty risk. Fully decentralized, DeFi staking directly on chain. You don't have to give it, your 1 ETH to some pool or whatever, and hope they stake it. There are ways to stake directly with very, very little counterparty. And I guess there's some. Maybe maybe if you feel concerned about the risk, Richard Hart, stake a quarter of your bag, half of the bag, whatever. You could break it down like that if you wanted to, but he didn't do it. It's okay. He still has 700 million worth of ETH somewhere. And if it only takes 1.5 million at a time to pump the chain 50% each time, well, we could be looking at all-time highs on Pulse Chain in the not too distant future. So happy for SharpLink Gaming. Stake your ETH, ladies and gentlemen. It is the best risk-adjusted investment in crypto right now, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, and talking about a super cycle, CZ was recently on stage at the current event talking about how there potentially could be a super cycle for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and cryptocurrencies. He didn't sound too confident. If you know CZ, that isn't anything new. He doesn't really go out on a limb all too much, or especially with in-person and showing your face interviews. He kind of keeps things vague, keeps both doors open. That's just his personality. But the fact of the matter is more and more people are starting to understand that there could be, in fact, a super cycle in cryptocurrencies, and the top and the 4-year halving could not be non-existent anymore. That's what he specifically said. It could disrupt the 4-year cycle. We could be in a super cycle. Us here at Crypto Paradise have been saying this for years now, based on everything that we're seeing, and now more and more days go by and more data supports the fact that we should go to new all-time highs. We should have an elongated cycle that isn't the 4-year cycle. Will it be a 5-year cycle for the business cycle? Will it be a 6-year super cycle? We don't know. We'll follow along. I will be happy getting new highs on Bitcoin, getting $10,000 ETH, and having an opportunity to change my life and all of your life with an altcoin season when that happens. But it's nice to see that now CZ, the very person that people say is manipulating the market up and down, left and right, is now talking about a super cycle, because if you truly believe he is pulling the strings, then that is exactly what you want to hear out of his mouth.
Yeah, two things can be true. Like Binance and Wintermute can manipulate the markets in the realm of leverage trading and perpetuals, and they can also believe there's a super cycle in play. You know, it's interesting. Like, I wonder if it's just because, you know, I'm bullish on crypto, that my timeline on X and other social media platforms is full of just these bulls talking about like the 5-year cycle and the super cycle. And, you know, I saw a tweet the other day parroting exactly what we've been talking about on this show for a long time. You know, when the gold ETF was put in play, it went on a 10-year bull market, but it was a slow grind up kind of a bull market. It wasn't like a parabolic crazy run followed by a crash. You know, it wasn't that sort of thing. Once Wall Street's involved, I think they prefer the slow grind up, and my timeline is just full of people basically saying what we always say. Is it because like I'm a bull and then so that's what they're giving me back, or is that everyone's timeline and majority of people are bulls out there? Who knows?
I mean, I still think there's a big portion of, remember, the reason that we had this off was a liquidity crisis, but we knew that tug of war was going to happen between 4-year people, 5-year people, and now you're getting the biggest people in the space, CZ, talking about it like, well, maybe the 4-year cycle is over, because technically the 4-year cycle could continue to the end of this year. You get another rally, you can even put in a minor new high and still claim it was a 4-year halving cycle, even though the dates don't perfectly line up. But if we go to another meaningful new high in Bitcoin, Ethereum still hasn't hit a new high in 5 years. That goes to a new high, $5,000, $6,000, $10,000. Then all that criticism is gone, and all the people that were on the 4-year side who have either hedged or gone full into cash or 75% into cash, they will FOMO, because everybody FOMOs, and they will not want to be this early to the space and watch a full year of pure euphoria, because there has not been really any euphoria this cycle. Maybe euphoria if you own Bitcoin from 15,000, maybe a little euphoria if you pick the exact low on Ethereum at 1,500. But again, no new all-time high. And maybe you had some euphoria in the 3-day Binance meme coin season like we did. We had a little bit of euphoria, banked some profits, made a little BNB, and round-tripped the rest. I mean, that's the nature of the beast in a 3-day cycle. And other than that, it just hasn't happened. So when that euphoria comes, those people haven't felt that in 6 years now. They will come back. They will deploy their cash into assets that they understand. These people are investors, speculators, and gamblers by nature. And if there's a product or sector in which they understand and they see opportunity and green candles and hype and their feed's going to blow up with Crypto Paradise content, they will be buyers, they will be traders, and they will be speculators. It's just in their nature, and they're going to do it until the day they die, just like we are.
Let them FOMO back in at the top and buy our bags. That's what I say. I know you guys agree. Good morning to everyone watching the live stream today. Appreciate you, Moonmutt. Thank you, Todd. Good morning to Jay. Bagito, good to see you guys. Rema in the house as well. Bagito's timeline's also bullish, full of Tom Lee and Sailor, you know, promoting and pushing their bags. So, you know, I think the big money guys, the Wall Street players, the sovereign wealth funds, the politicians, you know, they're bullish. You know, Trump's family. So the big CZ, the big names are still bullish. But the smaller, maybe micro influencers who have been in the space for a long time, they believe in the 4-year cycle still. They're bearish, I guess, and they're posting bearish stuff. But I'm not listening to them. I'm hodling here, waiting for the Fed to pump our bags. Looks like we got a breakout on some low cap stocks. What does that mean for crypto there, Nick?
The Russell 2000 breakout just happened. Historically, every major Russell breakout has been followed by a Bitcoin run into its cycle high with alts going vertical, meaning that the Bitcoin high is not in. And yes, we have not seen an alt season yet. Not because IWM predicts Bitcoin, because it screams risk on liquidity. We always talk about liquidity and volume. That's why we have been bullish on needing QE, needing lower interest rates, wanting stimulus checks, because that liquidity finds its way into risk on assets. Small caps ripping equals investor moving back into risk assets across the board. This is the second round. We always talk about that phase chart. And maybe indeed we are simply in phase 2 of 4 now. Bitcoin had its round. You started to get a little bit of Ethereum season. And now we're going to go into full bore, new highs on Bitcoin, Ethereum outperforming Bitcoin in altcoin season. Phase 3 and phase 4 are to come.
Yeah, we talked actually about this very topic on the show. And yeah, it makes perfect sense. You know, investors looking for higher delta opportunities when the liquidity environment presents itself. We haven't yet gotten the QE yet. And that to me is the big question mark around this cycle. Last cycle we had COVID. And COVID, I guess in the minds of the politicians, necessitated a massive amount of stimulus. And a mass amount of quantitative easing and interest rates cut to zero. I do not think we get that this time. I think best case scenario, sometime in 2026. Because look, the Fed doesn't immediately want to just start QE. They're still worried about inflation. They're cutting the rates tomorrow. They're going to be in wait and see mode before any kind of quantitative easing starts to happen. Normally the QE starts when something breaks, quote unquote. Could be within the banking sector. Could be the labor market, something out of left field, who knows? But something more dramatic needs to happen for them to say, okay, well, we're going to start buying up a bunch of our treasuries or whatever they buy, mortgage-backed securities, etc. So that to me is the question. What is going to precipitate it? When is it going to happen? And is it going to be like a bit of QE, just kind of, you know, stabilize things, or is it going to be a straight up flood? My guess is it's a smaller amount, and that would then lead us to kind of a slower grind up. That scenario we've been talking about, rather than a massive green candle.
Rima says, in my opinion, this is the first time during the cycle that people are so divided between bull and bear. Very interesting to see how it plays out. Yes, I mean critical points, because is the top end at 126 and we're in a 4-year halving cycle and now we got 2 years of doom and gloom, or are the 5-year cyclists, the super cyclists who are saying 6, 7, 8 years are correct, and we grind higher for longer, and really the opportunity is staring you in the face. We have been on the side of an extended cycle. We have been on the side of a super cycle for a very long time. When I predicted in 2024 that Bitcoin would have hit $100,000 by the end of the year, nobody really believed it. But also, even back then, I remember being in Colombia, getting some dental work done, doing a live show with Ian on the back patio with the jungle in the background, and we were talking about when the gold ETF happened, you went on a 10-year bull market. Yes, the Bitcoin ETF will be happening. Yes, we'll get an Ethereum ETF. Yes, they'll be bullish. And we will get an elongated cycle, this cycle, which could be the biggest and longest bull market in crypto history. And yes, that is starting to play out. Bitcoin has done very well. It needs to get into new all-time highs. Ethereum and everything else has really been lagging. But if you still have another 3, 6, 12, 18 months of slow grind higher, well, then we would be correct once again.
Prediction for 26. Prediction for 26. By the way, the end of 25, let's just start there. I do think we hit that 95K, something around 100K Bitcoin. I'm not seeing another big crash in the cards. Yeah, sure, some manipulation, but slow grind up here around to that 100 or that 100K, 95K level on Bitcoin by the end of the year. That seems, by the way, very conservative estimate here. I would hate to see this year end in the red. And I don't know what level we were at on December 31 of 2024. Maybe we can check the price then, but I think it was around 100,000. So let's end a little bit green 2025, right? So that's prayer number one of the crypto guys. But for 26, again, I'm thinking slow grind higher. Slow grind higher up until sometime in the middle of the year. Because in the middle of the year, that is when we get the new head of the Fed. Speculation it's going to be a gentleman by the name of Kevin Hassett, who is a known bull, a known dove, been involved in the crypto industry. And I think there's going to be tremendous effort from the Fed and the Treasury and the White House to really push the economy, accelerate the economy leading into the midterms, which will be held, November of next year. So I think May we start to see a big run. Up until then, slow grind up. Yes, we're getting more risk on. I'm sure there'll be some people that still don't believe it's a bull run, blah, blah, blah. So slow grind up, and then May, we start to see a big acceleration. What do you think about that prediction there, Nick?
Well, I mean, talking about the Fed, we've been on that there would be a rate cut coming today or tomorrow for a very long time when only about 42% of the betting market agreed with us. Now it's about 98% agree with us. But now big name people are talking about potential 50 basis rate cut. I mean, crypto paradise is always early, Crypto Armor. I don't understand what's going on here, but we continue to be right. Now, there's no guarantee that this happens. But the fact that I searched 50 basis point cut and you got Grant Cardone, Chief Trades, Davo, Danny saying breaking, Fed members are expected to go for a 50 basis point cut tomorrow at the meeting. Odds are at 89%. You have another one here that says breaking, 11 to 12 FOMC members support 50 basis point cut tomorrow. Again, don't know how much of this is true, but the fact that it is even out there on the timeline, hasn't been out there in 2 years since talking about 50 basis point cuts, and now it is. And we've been telling you there will be a cut in December when nobody believed it. Now it looks inevitable. We've been telling you it would be great if there was a 50 basis point cut surprise, a super cut. That is how the market really gets going because the market expectations are not aligned with that happening, and now the feed is starting to talk about it. So we don't have to wait very much longer. I think it's today or tomorrow. We will find out if there is a cut. I think, again, there should be a cut. 100% there should be a cut. 0.25, great. No immediate impact. Market expectations kind of align with that. But in the long term, that is great for more liquidity coming to these markets. A surprise 50 basis point cut coming into the end of the year and QE about to start. I think we start this run quicker than what you're estimating in May, if indeed that does happen.
A couple things on this. First of all, I love Grant Cardone. Real estate billionaire. Basically turned crypto bull. I just did a video a few days ago we released on Crypto Paradise talking about real estate, comparing it to crypto. And for anyone who's thinking about dabbling in real estate and, oh, yeah, it's a great investment, it's not. It's really not. What's a better investment? Just Bitcoin. Just Bitcoin, maybe a little bit of Ethereum. You want to dabble in alts, fine. But I promise you'll outperform your real estate holdings. And this guy, he realized it after he became a billionaire in real estate and is now basically pivoted completely over to crypto. I guess he has some fund, which is like hybrid real estate combined with Bitcoin.
Yeah, the way he structures his deal now, so instead of doing a direct real estate investment in, like, say, a new apartment building, you'll get your pro rata share into that apartment building, plus there's like a Bitcoin balance associated with that property. So when you're investing, not only are you investing in that property and potential cash flow that property could give you, but you're also investing in the Bitcoin that comes with it and the potential upside cash flow that Bitcoin holding can get you over time as well. So they're kind of doing like a Bitcoin equity plus apartment complex investment deals now when doing real estate.
Yeah, I love that concept. Sure, combine the two, make it a hybrid thing. But yeah, real estate's not it. If you want to outperform inflation and you don't want to work your ass off and take on a whole bunch of debt and a bunch of risk, because that's what real estate takes. I mean, I don't think Grant Cardone shines away from the fact that he's levered up to his eyeballs, as are most people in real estate. But if you don't want to do that, you can invest in Bitcoin and probably outperform your real estate investments over a 10-year period. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. As to the 50 basis point prediction, I don't see that happening. I don't know what the basis is for that. I haven't seen anyone leaking that from a Fed, standpoint. I haven't seen any of the governors going out there in their speeches outside of Stephen Mirren, right, who's the Trump-appointed guy. He's, talking about 50 basis point cut for ages. Other than him, I don't know anyone is advocating for that, and it seems like a lot of them are still even not wanting to cut at all. So I don't think we get the 50, but it would be great if we did. I don't think it happens. Regardless, we are going to see continued decreasing of the rates. The interesting thing about it, though, and maybe we don't talk about this enough. Just because the rates are lower, those are the short-term overnight lending rates from the Fed to the banks. What the banks are then charging you for your interest is based on like the long-term bonds yield, which is still high, still around 4%. And for whatever reason, the Fed policy hasn't translated to, the real lending markets yet. And that allegedly, from what I've read, could cause the Fed to step in and say, okay, well, we need QE. If the banks aren't going to be lending at lower rates, if this is actually if lowering rates aren't going to help average everyday people, we need to step in and do something, and that could precipitate QE. Have you seen that? Have you heard much about that? I feel like most people are not talking about that. It needs to be talked about.
Yeah, I haven't seen that too much just yet. You also have a little bit of hissing in the background. Okay, you muted yourself. But I agree with you full-heartedly. And I think part of that conversation is, does in fact Trump do the $2,000 stimulus check that he's talking about early next year before the midterms? I mean, that kind of falls in the same sector that you're talking about. Hey, it's not just about interest rates, but it's about actual QE going on. It's about additional stimulus checks. It's about keeping inflation low. It's about lowering the cost on goods because these companies are starting to build products in the United States, like that small truck that Toyota is going to be able to release here in the United States that hasn't been available for decades now. That's another option for people. Instead of having to spend $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 on a truck, you're going to have this small work truck available by Toyota that probably, some people are talking about $16,000. I don't see that. Probably mid-20s though. And if you can save $15,000 on a car loan, plus interest rates come down another point, plus maybe you get a stimulus check for a down payment, well, that can really stimulate a lot of the economy and get a lot of money in people's pockets.
I know this is going to be a tangent, but why is it that in China you can buy a beautiful new car for $4,000, but in the U.S. it's $40,000?
Well, I don't know fully about 4,000, but for example, for the small truck, I was just talking about it with my friends. Like, why couldn't we sell that? Well, the reason that it was blocked here in the United States is if you allowed such a vehicle to be here, so many people would buy it that it would actually hurt the onshore builders, the Chevys, the Fords, the etceteras. But this is the first time under Trump that Toyota is actually investing in a big way in the United States and can actually manufacture that truck here on shore, therefore being allowed to sell it when before it was only being manufactured overseas. And that's why kind of that law was on the books. You can disagree with it, you can agree with it, whatever, but on the forefront of benefiting Made in America, that's why it was on the books. And now that will change because Toyota is now going to be making in America that vehicle and investing in a big way in new manufacturing here on shore.
Yeah, I'm very torn on that topic because, look, I get it. In China, the cost of labor is orders of magnitude less than here in the U.S. So you can pay your workers a whole heck of a lot less in China. They don't have the same rights as they do in America. Also, the cost of materials is going to be much lower there. So I get it why vehicles would cost less, but the cost of a new car here in the U.S., it's ridiculous. It is actually insane.
Quite a bit. They're even bringing back like the Prelude or something, which is built on like a Honda Civic chassis, and it starts at like $44,000 as a sports car, but only pushes like 200 horsepower. It's equivalent to buying a Honda Civic, and its starting price is $44,000, which means if you get it fully modded, it's like $65,000 for a sports car that your grandma would be proud of. It's pretty wild how expensive things are getting.
Yeah, we got to solve for that problem. So I haven't heard that story about Toyota and a small truck and lower prices, but it's just one example, right, of what I think the administration is looking to do in 26 to tackle affordability, to tackle inflation, to help grow the economy, stimulate the economy, which is going to then spill over into the financial markets, risk assets, etc. So that's one reason why we are bullish on 2026. We're bullish on 26. Rema out here, speculation. We chop between 70 and 126 and resume up in the end of 2026, including all season. Yeah, that would be kind of like consistent with an extended, that would be the 5-year cycle, right? Where like we had a blow off top at the end of the year in 26. Now, that could well happen. That could well happen. But I think we start to see a parabola forming prior to the end of the year, likely around May, because that's when the new head of the Fed comes in, is going to stimulate the economy and cut rates to near zero, and hopefully they do the stimulus checks and we get a major uptrend starting in the middle of the year. Because I don't want to wait till the end. Don't tell me I got to wait a whole nother year, Rema, before we make any money in crypto. No, thank you.
Talking about another bullish thing that could kickstart the Bitcoin and crypto move, breaking Senate Democrats just held a high-level meeting on the U.S. crypto market structure bill. A group of Senate Democrats, including Gillibrand and Warner, has now met to review the compromise crypto market structure bill drafted by Senate Banking Committee Republicans. This is one of the strongest signs yet that bipartisan alignment on U.S. crypto regulation is forming, and here's where it gets even bigger. And you can see a list of all of the CEOs and banks that were involved with this, and the bill is moving through formal steps towards final approval, expected in early 2026, so maybe Q1 of 2026. And Trump has already said that he wants to sign this thing. He's been talking about that since his campaign. This was part of his campaign promise. So good to see that there is some bipartisanship going on between Democrats and Republicans. I think, number one, there are Democrats who are invested in Bitcoin, see the benefit of new technology, understand that the embracing of the internet is how U.S. is still the superpower that it is today, and crypto could be that next opportunity. But number two, I think for nefarious reasons, a lot of Democrats realize, wow, there's 100 million potential Bitcoin holders in the United States that are all voters. And Trump won, and he was very pro-Bitcoin, while Biden and Harris didn't even know what a Bitcoin is and wanted to kill the entire industry. So good to see this happening. I think it's great in the long term, the short term, whatever it may be. But when it comes to voting, you're not going to be able to lean on voting just with your wallet when it comes to Bitcoin, because it does seem that some Democrats are going to embrace Bitcoin. You're going to have to look a little deeper in the next elections.
I love to see the Bitcoin market structure bill getting pushed forward through Congress. I love to see the Dems embracing it. And here's a cynic's take. Never doubt the power of lobbying and money. And what industry spent the most money? Lobbying. At least last election, it's probably continued. I think oil and gas was number one. Normal. Always that way. Number two, crypto. You don't think the likes of Coinbase and Strategy and all these guys, they got their high-paid lobbyists, they're swinging their big dicks and their massive checks, and they're getting in the heads of even the Democrats, who I'm sure at one time hated crypto, but nothing like a fat check to get you to sing a different tune. So Coinbase, Brian Armstrong, keep lobbying, keep corrupting these Senate and these House Democrats to get them to love crypto. I don't care how you do it, but let's get this bill passed. It's hard to get stuff passed in Congress, by the way. Very, very hard. Almost nothing gets done in the U.S. Congress unless there's like some emergency, right, like we got to open the government.
They all make like $200,000 to $300,000 salaries, free cars, free meals, pension plans. And yet they do absolutely nothing but argue and don't sign jack shit. Pretty crazy.
Correct.
That's
so
a
they
nice
almost
gig.
never
That's
sign
nice
anything
gig.
outside of like an emergency situation. And when that emergency situation comes, they like throw in a bunch of pork and random legislation into that one bill they have to pass. And they just do one thing a year and it's all crammed into that one thing. So if they can actually get this done outside of like an emergency setting, that will speak to the power of this industry, lobbying, and also, look, I think to Nick's point, Americans do support it. Americans voted for Trump. Trump supports crypto and blockchain. People want to break out of the rat race, so to speak, and find their way out of the debt trap that everyone's stuck in. And crypto's the way out. So very happy to see. Let's hope this market structure bill gets passed. I don't know if it can happen by the end of the year. Because don't they leave? Don't they stop working like now when they
they're
leave
done.
work for like 2 months?
It says early 2026 now, which would mean they wouldn't want to sign it in Q1 of 2026 because they're done working. When I worked in the finance industry, about this time already, all the high-end execs are gone. They want you to, they're emailing you, hey, do a couple of final monthly reports. And, I wouldn't use, everybody else uses their PTO because they're like, oh, we can get a ton of huge vacation with the holidays. I didn't because there's nobody else in the office. It is a vacation. I go in there, watch some YouTube videos, maybe do an hour of work and get paid for it. You're sitting in the office twiddling your thumbs. Nobody else is there working. So I'll use the PTO days on different parts of the year where it's actually busy. And I would have kept the PTO days when everybody's gone. But yeah, in the financial markets, the government, like all these people are tuning out. And if they're working 2 to 4 hour days right now already. And anytime around the holidays, all the way until the end of the new year, or the beginning of the new year, they're gone. So, New Year's Eve, New Year's, even the couple days after they recover, and they get back to work like that end of week 1, second week of January.
Bums. Lazy bums. You know who won't be taking any time off? I mean, I'm sure we'll take some time off during the holidays. But we will be out here doing the daily live streams, doing what we can for you guys, the surf holders, the Crypto Paradise community. throughout the holidays because we love what we do and we're not lazy bums. Okay, just wanted to say that. Just wanted to get that out of the way. What do we got here? Pulse chain?
Yeah, talking about
Updates?
not taking a day off. Obviously, we were talked about the 1.5 million that was injected into Pulse Chain and it created massive green candles. Obviously, some people have sold into those. You need to now form higher lows like we see on Bitcoin and Ethereum to leave those traders behind. If you've been ingrained in your brain so long and been so successful as a trader that every big rally in Pulse Chain you sell it, you're able to buy it back cheaper, well, you're going to keep doing that until it stops working. So Richard Hart, if you are listening, yes, it sucks that you made it pump 80% and now it's only up 30%, but now you need to pump it again and leave those traders behind, putting in higher lows and grinding out of the lows. So it's good to see again, past 24 hours, more green on Pulse Chain. And what do you know? PulseX continues to outperform. What have we said? I have said 1,000 times. I prefer not to hold any of these cores. I just hold PTGC because I believe it's going to outperform. And then, of course, we have Surf and some other degenerate and microcap plays on Pulse Chain. But if you are adamant on holding any of the blue chips on Pulse Chain, I believe PulseX will be the one who wins and outperforms all the rest due to the buy and burns and due to the fact that it is the main AMM on the network and the token for that automatic market maker. Think of Uniswap with good token economics. That's PulseX, and it continues to outperform. It's like a 1-to-1 ratio of Pulse Chain. When this first launched, you could get 10 PulseX for 1 Pulse Chain. And I did a video all the way back then. Swap your PulseX to Pulse Chain, or swap your Pulse Chain to PulseX. PulseX will outperform, and now it's 1-to-1. You could have 10x'd your bag just by doing that. And what about the weekly? Although the rally just happened this weekend, on the weekly, Pulse Chain is still up 21%, 59% for PulseX, 26% for Inc., and 16% for Hex. This is sent Surf up about 30% on the weekly. PTGC's up about 35% on the weekly. And this is the trajectory that we need to see. Now, we're just getting started. If you look at market caps and prices, everything is still way down. So, yes, it feels good to see green, but we need a lot more green to get euphoric, to get excited, and to start putting profits back into the wallet.
I did check the sort of the long-term price performance on PLS yesterday. It's like, oh, it's up. Should I take any profits? I needed to pay like a bill, like a tax.
And then you zoom out and you're like, oh, it hasn't even got started.
Yeah, I looked at it. I was like, oh, no, I'm not selling anything. That'd be stupid. Like, of course I'm not selling. So I didn't sell, by the way. Had to sell something else, sadly enough. I think it was B&B. But in any event, yeah, Pulse Chain, long way to go. Great to see the green candles. Let's get some positivity back on the timeline and it's sort of in the community. Haven't seen a lot of cheerleading yet from Pulse Chain people in a long time. My timeline's been silent as to Pulse Chain. But hey, you buy when there's blood in the streets. Isn't that right, ladies and gentlemen? That's how you make money. We got Hex Bull in the house. Is Hex Bull still bullish on Hex? I want to know that. Are you still bullish on Hex, my friend, or have you given up completely and, Richard Hart's a scammer? Yeah,
well, next message, he says, nothing to talk about anymore since bear market, guys. Anyways, Nick, did you get your Xmas license? We talked about that to begin with. Yeah, they're getting there. We're halfway up. It's a little cold, a little gloomy, but we're getting there. And I don't know if he's talking in tongue-in-cheek, but that could be your answer. Maybe the Hex Bull should change his name to Hex Bear. Hex
Bear in the house, yeah. Well, I'll tell you, Hex Bull, bullish or bearish, we will always find something to talk about. And, the incredible thing about this cycle has been the amount of positive sort of macro events really around the adoption of crypto, particularly around like Wall Street and banks accepting it and using it now and pushing it to their clients. That's been, one of the sort of biggest shifts I've seen from this cycle to prior cycles. It hasn't shown up in the price yet. We know that. But the fact that you have Bank of America saying not only should their wealth managers recommend up to a 4% allocation in Bitcoin, they're going to recommend Ethereum now. We have Vanguard, which is like $11 trillion under management, now going to be allowing Bitcoin and Ethereum investments in 26. I could go on and on about the banking sector now embracing this asset. And so, there's something to talk about from a price standpoint. From an adoption standpoint, there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I guess we kind of cover all the news. We're going to make it short and sweet. I know Crypto Amaru is a little sick. We do have the Paradise Pump going on. Ethereum breaking out. New highs for the move. $3,279. Right on cue. Sorry I had to fat finger. I got a fat finger every live show, so we can just say the Paradise Pump is occurring. It's really just me, remortgaging the house, fat fingering, just so I can say that. And then the manipulators have been selling into these pumps lately, but continue to grind higher. And what do you know? Capitulation, bullish divergence, grind higher low, grind higher low, and now making a higher high, coming right into. I bet you we get rejected around $33,350, and hopefully we can get to 3,500. Because when you get to 3,500, that's where the bulls turn on, and that's where you're going to see the hedgers switch to long positions. So let's follow along here. Let's see what's going on. Up 4.87% on Ethereum. Bitcoin only up 2.6%. Huh. It's almost like you should be selling all your Bitcoin and buying Ethereum, because Ethereum is going to continue to outperform. If only somebody's been beating that through your head for the past 5 months and you would have listened. Here we go. Here's when we told you to do it. Look where we're at. Ethereum now outperforming Bitcoin by nearly 100%, trying to break out of this bull flag that we drew here for you. So as long as you stay above these levels, 3333, you're off to the races. Upside objectives all the way up here to the green line at 0.073. I think that we can go to new highs for Ethereum to Bitcoin ratio, but I would be content with 0.073. That means you're looking at, for every Bitcoin, I don't know how to even phrase that. It'd be like 70% results. So if a Bitcoin's 100,000, you would have Ethereum at $7,000. That's the easy math. So you could start speculating, okay, if Bitcoin's 200,000, that'd be a $14,000 ETH. If Bitcoin's 244,000, you would have like a $17,000 Ethereum. The way you get $22,000 and $35 Ethereum, like I've quoted, is getting back to that a ratio that we saw from previous cycle in Ethereum trying to put in new highs versus Bitcoin, which it hasn't done since inception all the way back in like 2017.
Let's go Paradise Pump. Hex Bear is Hex Bull again, by the way. He's changed his name to Bear, and now it's back to Bull. So we're in a good spot, guys. I'm just going to be looking forward to tomorrow, because is this sort of a buy the rumor and then sell the news event on the rate cut? And when Powell gets out and opens his fat mouth, maybe. I think, it really depends on what he ends up saying in the press conference. That is what it's going to come down to. It's come down to that every other time. So we're going to get the rate cut. The market's going to be like, shrug. We were expecting that. No big deal. And then what he says is going to make all the difference. But I'd love to see some sustained uptrend here. Great to see Bitcoin, 92K. ETH, like you mentioned, nearly 3,300. Love to see it. Had to sell some BNB yesterday to pay I had to pay something. The bills don't stop. That's the problem. The bills don't stop, and sometimes the market isn't going up. So that's never fun. But that's all right. I continue to hold. This is where I disagree with Nick. Selling all my Bitcoin to move into ETH, and I love ETH, dude. I'm an ETH maxi. I'm an ETH guy. Have been since like 2018. But selling all my Bitcoin, that notion, I just can't wrap my head around. I can't accept it.
Well, most people don't have the portfolio size you do, Private Cryptometer. They got to make a move and they got to outperform. And since we have said that, it was near the exact low in the ratio, and ETH is now outperformed by 100%, and Ethereum still hasn't gone to a new all-time high. So, in my estimation, why do I think Ethereum is going to continue to outperform? If we're right and there is a super cycle or 5-year cycle or whatever you want to call it, Ethereum has to outperform Bitcoin at some point, because it always does. Altcoins need to outperform Ethereum, and that is fueled by Ethereum outperformance, because it always has. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if that prediction is correct, or if that would have been the right move. But so far, you have a 100% buffer of when I told you to do that originally about 5 months ago. And I don't see Bitcoin outperforming Ethereum by over 100% anytime soon. And even if that did happen, you'd be back to a flat ratio, where it didn't really matter if you owned Bitcoin or Ethereum. You're back to flat since that call.
Yeah, you're absolutely right on all the above. I just love my Bitcoin. Don't.
Hey, fair enough.
Ethereum's going to outperform Bitcoin for the remainder of the cycle, right? And then it's going to crash at some point, probably harder than Bitcoin will crash, and the market will restart again. But I was speaking to a friend yesterday, 2 days ago. I met him on Sunday, and he obviously knows I'm a crypto, blah blah. He's an investor in the stock market, pretty wealthy dude. And he's like, what should I buy? What should I buy, right? Should I buy Bitcoin now? He knows it crashed to 80, whatever. It's like, you know what? You could. You probably should have some Bitcoin, but I think Ethereum is better. And they gave him the whole pitch, and I think he saw the value in Ethereum relative to Bitcoin. So yeah, I agree. Look, if your portfolio, if you got $1,000, $5,000 you're working with, Ethereum's going to present more upside at this stage in the cycle than Bitcoin. But if you already got some Bitcoins to your name, I mean, those I'm not selling. That's my ticket to early retirement.
Talking about degeneracy, since we got Crypto Amaru all flustered over here with the selling Bitcoin for Ethereum, how about you sell 75% of your stock portfolio and go all in on Ethereum too? Well, that's exactly what I have done. I made a tweet about this. I've taken 75% of my stock account and put it into ETH, BNB, and Doge digital asset treasury companies. Wrecked our riches in the next 24 months. What do you think? Look, we bought SBT, Bitminer, CEA at the first low after the major sell-off when the FOMO happened. We rode it all the way up. Massive gains, euphoria. It came down, held a little bit higher than the previous buy. So I can show you these. Look where we bought it originally, wrote it down, boom. And then everything, all the writing is telling me that, hey, they're continuing to stake and earn Ethereum. They're buying more Ethereum. And I'm sitting here preaching Ethereum is going to outperform anything. So we'll maybe put my money where my mouth is. Fuck the Disney stock. Fuck the Amazon. Fuck all that boring shit that's already ran and made me a lot of money. Sell it all and go all into these Ethereum dApps that you believe in. This is the way that I made it back in 2018, remortgaging the house, buying Bitcoin at $3,000, $3,500, $4,500, when everybody was going to shit their bed. I'm young enough. I can find ways to make money. Wrecked or riches. What do you think's going to happen, Crypto Amaru? And I know you don't have the balls to do it, but maybe you can tell your wife to do it for you.
I love it, man. Love the ballsy move. Look, if you want to outperform the market, you got to take some risks. So I love that you did that. I will not be doing that. I will not be doing that. I am a preacher and believer in diversification. Gonna just hold what I got in my stocks and my whatever and let it compound and do its thing. But you'll probably have, I mean, my guess is by the end of this cycle, your portfolio will have outperformed mine. Like, I can almost guarantee it. Think about what's happened with stocks over the past, 12 months or so. Going on a tremendous run. The stock market's up like 18% or something like that on the Mag 7 anyway. I don't know about the smaller companies. But the Mag 7, which is where everyone should have their portfolio anyway, is up like 12 or 18%, even in the face of, the Terra FUD and relatively high rates and no QE and QT and blah, blah, blah. Stock market's up. We're now moving into an easier phase from a Fed standpoint, quantitative easing. That means money is going to flow from the less risky, you'll see it flowing from some of the Mag 7s, you'll see it flowing from gold, real estate, whatever, money markets, down into the riskier. So your play makes perfect logical sense if you believe an easing cycle is coming, and if you're, let's just say confident no black swans or anything crazy is going to happen that's going to wreck low caps and the risk on part of the market. But if you believe those two things to be true, yeah, my guess is your portfolio is going to outperform most people who just stuck around in the Mag 7.
Well, that's my thought exactly. Look, it could be, this isn't financial advice. You can get wrecked if you are wrong on these things, or if there's an ETH killer or some kind of technology black swan happens. But my thought is exactly what you said. Stocks have already vastly outperformed Ethereum and even Bitcoin. So if I can take profits off the table of what is outperformed and rotate into an asset that I believe fundamentals are leading price, that this is still a stock portfolio. I'm not supposed to be touching this money till retirement anyways. Do I think that Ethereum will be higher at some point in the 3 months, 6 months, 18 months, 10 years from now than it is now, driving those DATs to higher valuations? My answer is yes. That's why we go out and do it. Also makes for some good content, and we'll see what happens here on the timeline. The biggest thing is, even if you say, Crypto Amaru, I'm going to outperform you the rest of the cycle, the hardest part is, when do you take profits on this play? If I am right and it outperforms in a massive way, you still have to realize, take a step back away from the euphoria and take the froth and the profits off the table. Otherwise, no matter how good of a trade buy it was, you didn't get the good trade exit, which could be in 3 months, 18 months, 5 years from now. We'll have to follow along and see when we think that the major Ethereum euphoria and top is in, because there's no doubt that all the DATs that are doing it the right way will be at massive new highs as well.
The other risk when you move into this Ethereum trade, say it does great, say you're up 3 or 4x in a year, there is going to then be a lot of temptation on your part to take. Yes, you'll take the money off the table. You'll take profits, but instead of like socking it away for a rainy day or paying off some debt, or you're going to start investing in meme coins. You're going to start investing in all the pre-sales. You're going to start doing that. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do any of that, but let's not. You get a big win in the casino and you just keep gambling. I know you won't do that. But there's a lot of newbies and novices out there who, by the end of this cycle, will have like tripped everything. They'll have made a lot and lost a lot, and so you got to be careful, guys. I know we're nowhere near that pit phase of the cycle where everyone's like made a lot and gonna continue to gamble in the casino, but there's always a risk to that. I've done that. I know, Nick, I'm sure you've done that too. So you just got to be aware of those things and be fearful when others are greedy, as they say.
NJ Dub says, you guys ready for Pulse Chain season? We talked about Pulse Chain in 2 different parts in the live show, so definitely go back and watch that. One specifically that we thought Richard Hart should stake their Ethereum, earn Ethereum, and use that Ethereum that is earned to just buy and full port into Pulse Chain like we saw happen over the weekend. The example is Sharplink Gaming right now earned $1.33 million worth of ETH at current price in the past week alone from staking Ethereum. And we know that 1.5 million sent Pulse Chain 85% higher. Now let's extrapolate that out week by week, month by month, year by year. Richard Hart doing that, and then you still hold the baseline Ethereum. I don't know why he didn't do that to begin with. I've been saying this for 6-8 months, a year, that I wish he would stake the Ethereum. He never did. It is what it is. Maybe it's for SEC purposes, Interpol purposes, systematic risk purposes. I don't know. But that would be a great inflow of capital. But also, when we saw the pump, we came on here and we made posts on my personal account on Crypto Paradise talking about LP bonding, Hart's Law. We saw Surf go up 45%. PTGC went up 35%. Some of these other small microcaps went up big as well. Not even with real major buyers in those specific assets, but just because their counterparty, PLS, PLSX, the Hex liquidity pool, the Ink liquidity pool, which these projects have done. They haven't created liquidity just with stablecoins or just with PLS, but they've done it with all core assets and other assets on Pulse Chain. They were drug up. They generated some volume. They paid out reflection rewards. They bought and burned supply based off of that activity. That's what we expect to see, and that's why we keep saying if Pulse Chain can do anything, if it can do a 5x from here, a 10x from here, a 20x from here, the upside on Surf, PTGC, and these other assets that have this token tax system are absolutely enormous just simply from LP bonding. And while that happens, people will have money, and we're going to be active and try to get new buyers of Surf, new DAO members of Surf that are buying 200,000, new Frontier Front investors that are buying 400,000. And that's where you stimulate long-lasting deflationary green candles that you earn more Surf simply by being a holder as well.
You know what's giving me a lot of confidence around Pulse Chain? The fact that Richard Hart, let's just not call it the fact, because let's use it, the high likelihood that Richard Hart is now using some of that sacrifice money to pump Pulse Chain. If that 1.5 million was from him, you better believe it's not going to be the last that he does this, right? And if he's going to continue to do this, yes, that's how we get the 10x, 20x on Pulse Chain, especially when the whole market realizes what's happening. They start FOMOing into the trade, trying to front run Richard. It's not a very liquid chain. It doesn't take a lot of money to pump it. And so, if Richard Hart is going to full port, let's just say even half, let's just say even a quarter of that money into Pulse Chain, yeah, we're all going to make it. We'll all be retired on the beach by the end of 2026.
Yeah, and really the next major sell target for Pulse Chain is 229% higher, which is over a 3x from current price. So imagine the volume, the deflation, the price performance that occurs if Pulse Chain goes up 229%. That means PLSX probably goes up 300%. What does that do for the liquidity pools of Surf and PTGC? What does that do for their price performance even without new buyers? How much volume is generated? How many tokens are bought and burned? And then remember, Surf and PTGC both have the DAO that is used primarily, voted before by the DAO, to buy and burn tokens, add LP, which stimulates growth even faster. No expectation wallet can be used for buy and burns, for marketing, whatever it may be. So again, the next major target for selling of PLS is 229% higher at 0.00007. So let's see if we can get some momentum. So far, we have put in a higher low, seeing some green candles on the back of Ethereum. Put in another 1.5 million right now, Richard. Create an 85% green candle while Ethereum is pumping. Get some FOMO going, and let's see what we can do.
That's the Paradise Pump for you, folks. Paradise Pump is crushing this market. We're just killing it right now.
NJ Dub says, nobody came here for only a 20x. I'll leave it at that, referring to Pulse Chain. Hey, at this point, how many people have been shaken out? How long the downturn has been? Even Ethereum is $1,500 below its all-time high. I think a lot of people would be happy with the 20x. And also, if you've been following along, if you get a 20x on PLS, you probably get a 25x on PLSX, and hopefully you can get a 25 to 50x on PTGC, Surf, and other token tax system tokens that we talk about here on a daily basis.
Yeah, I mean, look, you're not going to get a 20x, 50x, or 100x if you sell every time there's a little pump. And it seems, I'm not saying you do that, NJ Dub. I know you're diamond-handed Chad. But it seems like most people in the market, I mean, they're just selling into any little opportunity they can make 20%.
Assuming they can buy back cheaper.
You know, I know we all sit here, I want to get rich off crypto. I want to do 100x's. Guys, do you think, I'm in a good spot. I'm not saying I'm the richest guy in the crypto world, far from it. But the only way I made any money in crypto was actually holding to get to the point of 100x. Bunch of pre-sales we invested in last year. All right, and that's why we did I made most of my money in the pre-sale world. There were moments when those assets were down from our price, or they were stagnating for like months at a time. And then, go on a 6-month run, and that's how you hit your 100x and start to take profits then. So it's going to take patience, conviction. Don't just cheat out at every 20% move. I'm not saying you do that, NJ Dub, but it feels like most people in the market right now, they got bear market PTSD, whatever the case may be, they ain't holding. They ain't holding for 5x, let alone 20 or 100.
I think we covered a lot today. Make sure to watch that replay. Throw some comments on Twitter. I know a lot of our viewers are over on Twitter, but we are seeing the comments over on the YouTube channel, and this will be posted on Facebook, TikTok, and everything else as well as we continue to expand the Crypto Paradise brand, positioning our community to win when the market turns around, which it looks like it is, and we've been right in picking that low on Ethereum and in Bitcoin, so hopefully you bought more down there. Hopefully you bought the secondary buys on Sharplink Gaming, on Bitminer, and others. And hopefully this is the start of a bigger move through the end of this year and into 2026, because that means that you guys are winning, which means we are winning, which means more marketing deals come in, revenue comes in, we use that to buy and burn the Surf token, and then you win even harder. That's the plan, that's the name of the game, and that onboards more people into Pulse Chain. So the Pulse Chain community should be rooting for us. Surf holders should be rooting for us, and anybody in the crypto markets, if you like good content and you like winning, you want to root for this market to turn around so we can start getting you that alpha here at Crypto Paradise once again.
Not to mention the free vacations. Who else is giving out free vacations? Hit us up. I know it's cold out, at least where I'm at, and Nick, and probably most people in the world right now, unless you're in frickin' Australia. It's cold right now. We have a condo by the beach. Hit us up. Get a free vacation on Crypto Paradise. I know other influencers aren't doing that. But Nick, before we jump off, 2 things need to happen. 1, I need to use the bathroom. 2, we need to give Willie Blong, who I think I know who this is, we need to give him his airtime. Great show. Any thoughts on the current Yi run on ETH? What is this Yi? I've not heard of it. I like the name, and I like the fact that it's on Ethereum.
Yeah, I need to take a look at that. I have no
One
idea.
sec.
But in the last live show, Crypto Armor did speculate, and we talked about in previous rounds, usually the altcoin season runs through Ethereum, and maybe there'll be an Ethereum season with these cheaper transaction fees, talking about Melo, talking about Kaiken, and maybe projects will be opting to launch again on Ethereum rather than choosing another layer 1 or layer 2 like BNB, Pulse, Chain, Base, whatever it may be, due to the Fusaka upgrade. And it seems like, hey, maybe that is happening with the Yi, so I'll take a look. Bagito says Richard Hart should root for us. Yeah, if he wants his chain to do well, he needs projects, builders, KOLs to be building, talking about, and investing on his chain. You can't win with just the cores. You can't. I talk about this all the time. Yes, BNB won, but it needed Pancake Swap, it needed 8 Swap, it needed builders, it needed ICOs, and some of those will go up, some of those will go to 0, but all that network activity drives price of the cores due to fees, due to baseline holdings, and due to transactions. That's what you need. So yes, Richard Hart should be rooting for us and should be rooting for all projects to launch there. Will there be scams? Will things go to 0? Will things underperform? Yes, but all of that activity is what drives the core tokens. The core tokens cannot survive or win on their own merit. They need other people to build and use the network and platform.
Yeah, I want to go back to Willie's comment here. I don't know Yi. We'll do some research on it. But absolutely great to see runners on Ethereum. And it makes a lot of sense that you'd start to see Ethereum memes, Ethereum utility plays, etc., outperform. And the reason is because Ethereum transactions are now dirt cheap. Ethereum always had the benefit of having all the whales there. Solana doesn't have the whales, guys. A whale on Solana has maybe a couple $100,000 in its wallet. A whale on Ethereum has a couple mil, in one wallet. And I just actually saw a post now as I was using the bathroom. Apologies for having to. I drank too many energy drinks, so how that goes. Average transfer on Ethereum of USDC is $100,000. Average transfer on Polygon, 500. The whales are on ETH. And when we advise projects, talk to projects where to launch, where to deploy, it was always, well, yeah, I mean, Ethereum's got the whales, but it's so expensive. You won't get any of the small players. You won't have any volume. What happens when Ethereum becomes cheap? Which is now. It's now cheap because of Fusaka. You got the whales. You got the cheap transactions. You got the cheerleaders like Tom Lee pushing to get more Wall Street money. You got the likes of SBT buying up, staking a bunch of it, price going higher on the core asset, and I think the memes can outperform and the low caps can start to outperform here on ETH. I know I'll be rooting for it because I think Ethereum is a much better environment than Solana. Bunch of Jeets over there.
Yeah, the rally in Ethereum today is sending some of these DAT companies' stock prices slightly higher, and they're approaching equal MNAV, meaning they have a value of 1 for every Ethereum that they have, and when that gets above into a premium, that is when they're able to raise more funds. So let's root for Ethereum to continue to have a little bit of price performance, stock market participants to buy into those assets, send the MNAV above green, because then that means the flywheel kicks back into effect. Tom Lee and Sharplink Gaming, the Ether Machine, all these guys will have cash on hand again to be buying Ethereum dips or FOMO into green candles. I'm happy either way.
Starting to feel like that move of yours, taking 75% of your stock portfolio and selling it to buy crypto and crypto-related stocks like Bitmine and SBT, starting to feel like that was a smart move. That was a smart move.
Bitmine
on day one of the trade, it's looking good anyway.
Bitmine up 21% since the trade. SBT is up 18% since the trade. And I don't have the other one up on this watch feed. But there's one for BNB as well that is doing well. And then Zone is the one for Doge. I am down on that one a little bit, but that's kind of the flyer, smaller percentage. But it's called Clean Core Solutions, looking to have healthy cleaning products in commercial spaces like airlines, which I'm all for. And they switched to a Doge DAT. So that's the highest risk one, guys. But I did put a little bit of money into Clean Core Solutions as well. But primarily a bulk of the investment is in SBET, BMNR, the BNB one, and then again we trade Coinbase very successfully as well. So I throw that into the lump because that is obviously a crypto-related stock.
Did you buy any Yi? That's the question. Pepe's rival. We need to check out this Yi. Look, who remembers the beginning of Bitcoin's run from 15 to whatever 126? It was Pepe. It was Pepe that actually caused meme season. It precipitated the meme season. That went on a tremendous run, as we know, from 0 to billions, and then that caused basically all of the meme season to happen. Could this be the start of it? Is this orchestrated by whales? You have to wonder too, right? Could the Ethereum whales be like, all right, it's time to get attention back on ETH. It's time to have a massive runner, a meme coin that's fun, good narrative over on Ethereum. It's time to run it to billions. Here we go. And let's get retail back excited about this market. I don't know. I'm not a big conspiracy theory guy, but I wouldn't be surprised if whales are behind the Yi run. I don't know the current market cap. I'm not recommending buying it or not buying it. We should do some more research on it. But
you're just rooting for it because it'll pump Ethereum, which is the kind of the same nature of the beast that we're talking about with Richard Hart. Richard Hart should want PTGC to go to $1 billion, should want Surf to go to 100 million, should want XYZ token to go to $1 trillion, because all that does is pump the underlying assets in which he owns and promotes, which is all the core tokens on Pulse Chain, but in your case is Ethereum and the Ethereum network.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Yee's run is going to make ETH go higher necessarily, but it's going to make an alt season much more likely to happen over on Ethereum chain, which I'd be very happy about because I like that chain better than Solana, and I have some holdings over there. Mello, Kai, maybe some others still. So we're getting a little FOMO. We're getting a little FOMO on the live stream. You know what's great? By the way, and I know, Nick, you got to go, I think, or do something, but it's great to see more engagement. It's great to see more comments. It's great to see more viewers on the stream. There's a, you know the price of crypto goes up and down. So does the viewership of our show based on the price of cryptos going up or down. So price go up, viewership goes up. Love to see it. Don't forget, by the way, join the Telegram. There's always stuff going on in the community. Follow us on X and YouTube. We have contests going all the time, giveaways going on all the time. By the way, the first $1,000 for the 30-day engagement contest. That's going to be going out this week. We're going to get that in order. I know there's a few folks here who have been consistently supporting us. Bagito, Martin, you guys come to mind. Thank you guys. You'll definitely be getting some share of your rewards there. But get involved in the community. Happy to see you guys engaging. 7x in 30 days. Okay, not bad. Not bad on Yee. We'll do a bit of a dive on it. We'll do some research on it. To me, it sort of depends on who's pushing it and which influencers are talking about it. What's the narrative around it? How long has it been out? What's the token distribution? Is it highly bundled or is it very diversified or distributed amongst smaller holders? These are all factors that do matter when talking about a meme. But love to see it, man. Love to see it. Good work, Yee.
I think that about wraps it up for the show. Stay tuned to our feed for any other content that comes out. And hopefully we are close to the season of alpha in which altcoins can make us all filthy rich and we can make some trades, get some endorsements, get some sponsorships that make this community start winning again.
Let's go. Let's go. Thank you, guys. We'll be back tomorrow with another episode. And until then, we'll see you on the